Hello, everyone, and welcome to Soul Science, Episode 11. I am, as you can tell, still getting over a cold, and we're just going to try to power through this. Today's episode is called News and Reviews, and you can see that the theme for today is St. Patrick's Day, which was yesterday, or the day before yesterday. So we're doing sort of a combo, St. Patrick's, St. Joseph's Day. And up on the screen here, you can see my great Catholic buddies up on the screen here, also in the St. Patrick's Day spirit. If you didn't hear, there was the annual St. Patrick's Day parade in New York City. Was a little different this year. The Catholic pro-life organizations were they were stuck on the side of the street because they weren't allowed to participate. Now, Father James Martin and his buddies also did not participate in the parade because they were busy fraternizing with Joe Biden and all the bigwigs at the White House at a big luncheon for Catholic leaders that Joe Biden likes. So something of a contradiction possibly there. I don't want to get into it too much, but the story is important because I've been covering this. Okay, previous episodes, you look at the guys on the left-hand side. Father James Martin, he's been the editor-in-chief of America Magazine forever, as far as I know. He's the founder of Outreach Magazine, which is the LGBT offshoot magazine of America. And since the end of the first round of the Synod, Father James Martin announced an expansion for the role of Outreach Magazine to help implement the goals of the Synod. And so he stepped down from the leadership and appointed the fellow to his left, James O'Loughlin, who is a former Boston Globe reporter. And now he is now executive director and the wartime consigliere of Father James Martin over at Outreach Magazine. So I'm getting over my cold, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm a little foggy-headed and so forth. Hopefully my cough doesn't come back. All right. I would have so much to say about this, right? One of the things I'm trying to say here with these pictures is that this is a big deal. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and what you're not understanding is these guys are fundraisers. I mean, Outreach Magazine is now a fundraising mission for the implementation of LGBT activism in Catholic institutions, and here they are, the three executives from Outreach. I don't know the gentleman's name on the right. I forgot. He's some sort of managing editor or something like that. But I think I've made this point before. I mean, these guys are getting interviewed by CNN, the New York Times. They're getting invited to the White House. Folks, what's happening here is Christianity is being redefined by the radical left. Catholicism is being redefined right before our very eyes. And I don't want to get too. I'm glad I'm wearing this festive outfit, right? I want that needs to rub off on me. Okay, we're going through something, and I think, and I'm really convinced now that I need to do a spiritual podcast. I'm going to be after today. My next podcast is going to be about Lent and about spirituality, because guys, we need to do some reflecting and some prayer, because you can see that the powers are arrayed against us. Okay. And I think it's so appropriate that I'm sick. Actually, it's a very appropriate that my voice is hoarse and that I can barely get the words out, because I'll be honest with you, I have been beating this dead horse for 5 years now, right? And the people that should have been, and I'll tell you something, okay, it's true. Father James Martin never retweeted me. That's true. But you know what? He never would have. Okay. When my book came out, the Dubia Cardinals were worried about and complaining about communion for the divorced and remarried. All right. That was the painful condition that the church was in at the time. I published my book and I said, actually, that's not what Amoris Laetitia is about. I said, actually, Amoris Laetitia is about the promotion of gay equality in the church. Okay. And, I thank God for John Zmirak, who, he bent over backwards to help promote my book. I mean, he did so much. Here it is right here. So what a great guy. He was such a good friend to me. So anyway, I was thinking I shouldn't do this recording, but this is really appropriate. I have been sick for 2 weeks or longer, and it is appropriate that I can barely get the words out, because I have done everything that I can possibly do to warn the church about what's happening, and my warnings were ignored. I am grateful to see that we got a second draft from the Dubia Cardinals, and a second round, a second set of Dubia Cardinals and a second set of Dubia. And they now, the second set of Dubia are vastly improved over the first set, right? And the first Dubium, as I've said, is exactly on the money. It is exactly what this book describes. It's exactly what Amoris Laetitia is about. It took too long. It took too long for that recognition. Now, tragically, look what's happening. Now the Dubia Cardinals have got it right. Exactly right. They're exactly right, and now nobody's paying any attention to them. I mean, what kind of demon has possessed even the Catholic orthodoxy? I'm going to tell you right now. I mean, that's what it is. There were Catholic conservatives out there who used to count down the number of days when we had the first set of Dubia. We still haven't gotten a response from Pope Francis. Nothing, okay, absolutely nothing about the most current Dubia that were just published last year. And the integrity of the church is threatened if people don't get behind the new Dubia. So so I'm incredibly weak right now. I feel very, very tired and winded, and my throat is very worn out. But the truth is, I think I don't want to create the impression that I haven't lost hope. Okay. I have hope in God. And but I think it's going to be very different from maybe what I had envisioned. Okay. Something's going to have to happen real fast. There have been some indications that some things are happening. There's some indication that some things are, moving in the right direction. We might get something. So anyway, all right, let's go on with this. On to the Academy Awards. As you know, this is called News and Reviews. I was always planning on doing this. I've been I've been waiting to do this. I was going to, excuse me, I was going to do a whole episode on the Academy Awards. I actually thought that last year was a great year for movies. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to announce my winner. In fact, I was going to call them the Johnnies, right? And I was going to give out my Johnny Award for the best picture of the year. And so let me just go ahead and announce that. I didn't have the energy to put as much into this as I had originally wanted to. But the winner is Jesus Revolution. I really want to talk about that. The movie came out last year. I saw reviews of it. Eric Metaxas, I think he probably interviewed everyone in the cast. I learned about what an amazing, it's based on a true story. So I was just so, I was fascinated. I was fascinated to learn about this history that, I didn't really know about. And I'm sure part of the reason why is because I'm Catholic. It's not a Catholic-based story. It's about what was happening in some small Protestant churches in Orange County. And it's a beautiful story. And the title comes from what ended up being the cover story of a Time magazine story that they did about this amazing movement. And I have to say that it's one of the reasons that inspired me to start Soul Science as a podcast, because I'd been so focused on my second book for 5 years. I'd done nothing but promote my second book in vain. I mean, and I really neglected my first book, right? My first book was published in 2015, and my first book really had more of a Jesus Revolution theme to it, in that the movie Jesus Revolution really shows how a pastor from Orange County, with the help of early 70s hippie, how he was able to help a lot of the young kids at that time who were very much into the drug culture, which was very big in the late 60s and early 70s, how he was able to help them get away from the drugs, right, through Christianity. And so what it did was it brought to life one of the principal messages of the gospel, the healing power of Christianity and the healing power of Christ himself, which is what my first book is about. That's what my first book is really about. And it's also, whether people present it this way or not, that's what the theology of the body is about also. Theology of the body is about it. Just an incredible amount of the New Testament is about this as well, as is the Old Testament. It's a principal theme of sacred scripture. And it's such an important theme that people need to understand. It should be no surprise. We've gotten away from Christianity. Christian affiliation now is at the lowest it's ever been in the United States. At the same time that we have the largest epidemic of mental illnesses that's ever been recorded ever, including suicides. CDC, as I said in a previous episode, CDC is reporting that 2022 recorded more suicides in a single year than has ever been recorded in the United States. Just tragic news, right? But we're seeing empirical evidence, as many academic institutions are and medical institutions are recognizing, which is that there is a connection between human flourishing, health, healing, human healing, and the practice of our Christian faith. And that's what the movie Jesus Revolution is about. It's just a great story with a fantastic cast, great music, just a wonderful, beautiful movie that, in telling the story of something that really happened in the 60s and 70s, is also conveying one of the most important messages of Christianity. It's one that I don't ever hear from the pulpit anymore. When have I ever heard a message about how Christianity can save your life, how Christianity can heal you? You don't hear it anymore. So, and let's keep going here. I just thought I read this article by Mark Judge at the Stream. I occasionally write articles for the Stream. I love this publication, and Mark Judge wrote this fantastic article. I just loved it, called "Christian Mysticism Keeps Us Sane." And I thought, wow, that's very much like my kickoff episode to Soul Science, which was, should doctors prescribe religion for mental health? But I thought, Mark Judge did it so much better. He's got like the sexier version of, the message I was promoting in my episode, right? I kind of gave the Ross Perot version. And Mark Judge had the very cool leather jacket version. Christian mysticism. I think mysticism makes it so much cooler. And but anyway, there's a lot of good in this article. And I think you guys, I've got the link up here. And I recommend, going and reading this article. There's a lot of good stuff. Mark Judge does such an amazing job of weaving pop culture and intellectual culture. He does a very good job of balancing that, and you'll find that in this article as well. He's got a nice section on Lauren Daigle's new album, and that's it. I would say go there for that alone. He's got a clip of a recent concert with a couple of her songs on there. Wow. I mean, what an amazing performance. She's just got a unique voice, and her stage presence is just, amazing. The whole, and her band, the whole thing is just absolutely amazing. And Mark Judge, he sees something transcendent in the whole experience. But she's really, Lauren Daigle is definitely special. He's definitely got a religious take on that, which makes, perfectly good sense for a Christian singer and songwriter like Lauren Daigle. Let me read to you some quotes from Mark's fantastic article. Now, Root here is the author of a book, and I'm going to show you the book and a link to the Amazon page in just a second. But let me read this to you. Root has read dozens of celebrity autobiographies, as well as secular self-help books, and concludes reasonably that America is not crowded with secular atheists, but rather with would-be mystics. There's only one problem. Without God, these modern mystics are not only going to come up short, but may wind up in a bad place. Root preaches that the healthiest kind of mysticism is that preached by Martin Luther. As a Catholic, I would disagree with that. Who argued that we need God to truly deliver us from ourselves and permanently heal our sins. Excuse me. So I got the link up there. You got to read this article. Great article. I've got some more great material from Mark here. These other, on the screen here, these other forms of transformation cannot go to the depths we really need, Root said in a recent interview. The action you need to do is surrender and stop. The very thing that can save us is outside of us. If you've seen Jesus Revolution, you know what I'm doing. But if you're a Notre Dame fan, you also know what I'm doing. Okay? So, I like them. I like it either way, right? I like it either way. All right. That's a hard message today. Secular mystics are far outside the church. The more they tried to save themselves, the more they spun out and entrapped themselves. The transformation we need does not come by doing more and optimize ourselves. Root concluded, it's to open your hand to reach for God, right? Those who try their own secular mysticism can also find themselves trapped in the occult, which is a real prison. And I think there's so much wisdom here. And and so Mark here is quoting from the author of this book, who sees a danger, right, in going it your own with regard to spirituality, right? I mean, if you have a soul, right, which is what do we Christians believe? We believe that we're endowed with an immortal soul, right? And we also believe that soul is intimately connected to our consciousness, right? And this is such a spiritual idea. And everybody knows you don't need to be a Christian. These are even Eastern ideas. People speak of higher consciousness. Some people speak of expanded consciousness. Even the druggies in the 60s used to talk about stuff like that. Sam Harris, the new atheist, is into those kinds of experiences and so forth. And so consciousness, right, and the soul have always, traditionally, for thousands of years, they've gone together. And so, it makes sense, therefore, that our mental health, right, the health of our consciousness, is going to be connected to our spiritual health. And maybe this running away from Christianity was not a good idea, was not a good recipe for spiritual health. And so maybe it wasn't a good recipe for mental health either. And where did we get the idea that we could just make up our own formulas for, to heal our minds? Think about that for a second. Let's say you've got some serious illness. Imagine for a moment that you've got some huge growth on your arm, You probably would want to go to a doctor, I imagine, right? And say, hey, doctor, I've got this terrible growth on my arm. Can you help me figure out what it is? And it itches and it's all red and swollen. And what have I got? Can you help me out? But a friend comes to you instead and says, you know what? I've got the answer for you. Why do you trust the doctors? Why do you trust them? What makes them experts? I've come up with my own formula for physical health. What would you do? You'd ignore them, wouldn't you? Why do we think that the care of our minds should be treated so recklessly? Huh? Human beings have been at this and have been struggling with the human condition for thousands of years. Why do we toss out thousands of years of wisdom and think I can snap my fingers and make up my own stuff? It doesn't seem to be a good formula. And this fellow that Mark Judge is talking about here, that's the idea he's getting at, right? That, the whole spiritual but not religious, the whole Frank Sinatra spirituality, I did it my own way, is not panning out, right? We're seeing evidence of that. As I've talked about the Harvard nurses study so many times, it showed that people that went to church had better mental health. It didn't show that people that meditated had better mental health or that people that did yoga had better mental health. It didn't show that at all. In fact, actually, the lead researcher makes that point very explicit, right? That is not what it showed. It showed that people that went to church had this benefit, right? Freestyle spirituality that's 5 minutes old may not be the best recipe for human flourishing. And that's what's being described here in this article, a wonderful article. And I discuss these ideas in my book as well, But I do appreciate Mark's leather jacket. Mark's leather jacket approach is so cool that I want to give him some credit there. I'm going to have a coughing fit in a second. So it's appropriate that I'm about to wrap this up. Excuse me. Anyway, this is the book that Mark Judge is discussing in his article. That it's a free-ranging article, right? As I said, it's got Lauren Daigle in it. He's got G.K. Chesterton in there, and he's got this book, which sounds very interesting, right? I'm sure there's a lot of things in here I disagree with. Mark actually does a good job of summarizing some of the big ideas in this book, and it sounds very interesting. And I might actually pick this book up for myself. I don't know. Excuse me. So it's by Andrew Root, The Church in an Age of Secular Mysticisms, Why Spiritualities Without God Fail to Transform Us. Yes, this is a major theme of soul science. Excuse me. One of the reasons why I speak confidently about my own spiritual practice and about its efficacy is because I didn't make it up, right? The stuff I'm talking about you can find in wisdom scriptures from 2,000 years ago, right? It's in the writings of the saints and doctors of the church, going back centuries and centuries, right? And they've been reaffirmed. You find them in the writings, in the teachings of Jesus, and in the writings of his holy apostles, in the prophets, and in the wisdom books of the Old Testament, and in so many of the church fathers. And I really crammed a lot of that stuff. A lot of that material is in my first book, which, by the way, it's called. I've got right here. It's called. It's called The Immoral Landscape of the New Atheism, and it has to do with the time that it was published, right? 2015, The New Atheists, were. Sam Harris had just published one of his last atheist books in 2014, and so this book came out a few months later. Maybe about 6 months later, my book came out, and so I was responding to his book called The Moral Landscape, and so that's the reason why this is called The Immoral Landscape, because my argument was, there goes my phone, my argument was that in the absence of Christianity, the engine of civilization is lost. What is that engine? The human mind. The human mind is the engine of civilization. Oh, my phone's just not going to stop. All right, can I? Oh, you're not going to. I'm just trying to silence this thing. Okay, hopefully it'll be quiet. Anyway, the human. I am going to do this. I am going to, even if I've only got 30 more seconds, this thing's not going to stop. So I'm going to stop it. So if it's possible, okay, hold on. And then okay, that should do it. All right. And so, as I argued in this book, and I used a lot of data, the human mind is the engine of the soul, and the fuel, I argued, for that engine is spiritual fuel. It is grace, grace from God, which comes through Christianity. And I called that the grace hypothesis. A corollary to that would be the soul hypothesis, right? So, and so my argument was that if the prediction was if you abandon Christianity and turn away from God, then you turn away from the source of grace, and that's the spiritual energy of the soul and the mind. And without that, the mind cannot function properly. And when that happens, the human person suffers, right? Because their mind is now disordered and just racked with so many problems. But then collectively, the social order also deteriorates because it depends upon the mind being ordered by God's grace. So anyway, and I'm going to talk about my book. And now that the new atheists really are not at the front and center, friends of mine have suggested that I should give this book a new title and maybe a new cover. It was meant to be a dark cover, right? Because it's making a prediction. It's making a dark prediction that the loss of Christianity is not good for society. That's why I call it an immoral landscape. I call it more than that. I said it's not only immoral, it's also irrational and incompetent. And so I made many predictions at the end of it. Tragically, they're all coming true. Anyway, so that's a topic for future episodes. And, so we talked about a few things here. There are things that you would like to see happening on Soul Science. Let me know. As I said, I think it's time for us to maybe get a little more spiritual here on Soul Science. And I think I want to do some episodes on that. Anyway, I think that's what we're going to do. I think my next one is going to be Lent and Easter themed. And I'm actually looking forward to getting into that with you guys. So that's all for now. Thank you for joining me here on Soul Science. Oh, and if you've ever, you know that I have a link to Spotify. I just put up, but I wasn't very good about it. I'm so busy. I'm always doing things. I just have been focused on the video aspect, which you find on Rumble and so forth. But I'm getting back into the audio podcast. A buddy of mine, very talented musician, made me some good podcasting music, and I put that in the last episode, and it sounds great. Thanks to Paul, good guy. So anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy Feast of St. Joseph's Day. And I'll see you real soon. Take care.